6:3.
Let's all rise. 163. Izwa uJesu ebisa. Izwa uJesu ebisa to. Izwa uJesu ebisa gubano zosebenza amasimbu avuthiwe gubano twale nhlungu inkosi iyamemeza nangumvuzo esihle uphi ozokusho athi ngilapha Nkosi ngithume umumqe wene lulwandle uyaku ebeni oyoba veka he tu sebahlale lele nawe obunge zingelosi nobunga sepaule olandu thando lwenkosi uthiwa vela bonke uma ugebe lumlindi ondonge zileziyo usho ekela yezulu nomusa kubo bonke ngomthana zongoku pana wenzinta noyenkosi ukhokhe lenje ngo Aaron ephasa umprofeti awunxa imiphefumlo ipupa inkosi ekubiza yebiza bazobu uthi ngelutho yenzumsebenzi uvume ujabulele wona ibiza sheshu sabele ngilapha Nkosi thume.
I stand to greet the Church of God in Christ's wonderful name. Amen. Amen, Amen church. Amen. Amen indeed. Litini band. Amen. 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 You know, it is such a joyous moment to be part of this church at this point in time, where we not only are hearers of the word, but we are doers of the word. Amen. We are doers of the word, and I think if you're not, sorry to say, and allow me to be a bit humanistic at this point in time, if you're not impressed with yourself at this point in time, there might be an issue. Ne? There might be an issue you need to go and revisit and find out, surely is everything in order? Because the calling was what? Go ye therefore, Angit. And you went therefore. And if that does not move you to some sort of joy in your heart, mzalwane, go and check something. Go and check something. I just want to stand to thank the church for the activity that we took part in this morning, the phase that we took part in this morning, the process that we were part of this morning. Amen. Amen. Can you just say a big amen for yourselves? Amen indeed. You know, it reminded me of a time in Luke where Christ was just sitting at a retreat with his disciples, and they are chilling, as the young ones would say. And then he says, the harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few. Do you remember such a time? Bazalwane. Do you remember such a time? Was he at a retreat? They were at the work, angit. Ask his. But you see, Christ was in the middle of the work. And he's seeing the amount of the harvest. And he says what? The harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few. In other words, what he's saying is he's not discouraging his people. But he is saying, we cannot say because we've done something, our quota for the year is done. We can now take a back seat. He's saying, what you have done, you can only but continue doing. Then it will make a significant impact on the work that is needing to be done. Allow me this morning, friends, in the next few minutes to just share on why we do what we do. On why we do what we do. You know, there's a music group that is called Gungenga Yotando. I don't know if you know it. We have actually invited them to this church quite a couple of times. Maybe those in the writing of letters office will know because they would be the ones who invite. But there's this group that is called Gungenga Yotando. And I always used to wonder, were they out of names for them to pick such a name? Until you experience the love of Christ, it might not really make sense to you as to why you are the way you are. It is only when the love of Christ has really touched you and moved you that you can really say, yes, whatever it is I am, it is because of the love of Christ. So allow us this morning to just turn, if you can help us, turn to Corinthians, the second book of Corinthians, chapter 5, and we'll look at verse 14. Second Corinthians chapter 5, and we'll read verse 14. We'll just read the first part of the text. We'll just read the first part of the text. If we have found it, can we say amen? 2 Corinthians chapter 5, and the verse is 14. I'll read in your hearing in the New King James. It reads as follows. For the love of Christ compels us. For the benefit of the context, the text then goes to say, because we judge thus that if one died for all, then all died. But our center of focus this morning, or this afternoon rather, is for the love of Christ compels us. In the Amplified, it says, for the love of Christ controls us and urges us and impels us. May the Lord add a blessing as always to the reading of his word. Amen. Amen. Shall we pray? Father, in the mighty name of Jesus, we thank you this morning for your grace. Indeed, it is only by your grace. If it was not for your grace, we would not be in this place. And so we thank you, and as we are about to just go deeper a bit into your word, we pray for revelation that comes from above. We pray for you to speak to us a special word in this special day, that we might be encouraged to not only do for you, but to live for you. Thank you, Jesus, and it is in your name we pray, King, our Lord and Savior. Amen. So, allow me to posit that we are what we are and we do what we do, not for the result's sake. We went out this morning not to fulfill a quota in the grow your church model. We went out today not for statistics purposes, to say, this year we went out 5 times as a church to do book distribution. We went out today not for the number of souls that are going to be won. I know that sounds a bit controversial, but allow me to say that. We went out not for the statistics to say Kempton Park Church baptized 20 souls in 2019. That is not the reason. And if that is the reason that we did so, we might need to change our focus, change our goal. We went out today, and that is the purpose of our existence and our mission. What Christ did himself because of love. Because of love. And if it's not the love of Christ that's compelling you, one would say fake it until you make it. So we don't say stop doing what you're doing until you know you're doing it for the love of Christ. We say know that what needs to be the abiding motive is love. Is love. Because what brought Christ to earth? It was not obligation. It was not by way of, you know what, if I don't do it, who will? It was not a last resort. It was not because, you know what, eating bazame. What made him come is love. And the reason I say that is because he was existing before we did. And he could have existed after we were gone. But because of love, we are who we are. Because of love. It reminds me of the story, you know, of how I think it's been told and it's been shown and we know it. How the young boy and his father made a boat. You know that story? And then they went to the stream and they were playing with the boat in the river. And then the boat, because it was attached to the string broke that the boy was holding. The boat flows down with the current and disappears in the rapids. And the boy is disappointed. But as he is walking in town, in a second-hand shop, he sees by the window his loved boat. We know the story, right? And as he goes in and tries to negotiate his case with the storekeeper and says, that's my boat. In fact, you can look here and there. It's got this little mark that I made when I was making it. That's my boat. So can I have my boat back? The shipkeeper says, I'm in it for business. I'm in it for the money. What are you offering? And he says, I don't have anything. I don't have anything. So, but can I have my boat? And then he says, okay, for you, I will give you a discount on the price I had put on the boat. And he goes and he saves up the money. He goes in and he buys his boat. He buys it back to him. It's his boat. But because of circumstances, he has to buy it back to himself. But as he's walking away, T. Marshall Curley says, he sings the song, he could be heard singing, what? Twice. 2 times you're mine. Once because I made you. Twice because I bought you. But both times, because I loved you so. It's not because I thought, you know what, you are lost and you don't have anyone to take care of you in the shop window that I had to go buy you back. No, it's because I loved you. That is, I don't mind if I have to pay for you even though you're mine. And that's what Christ did, Bazalwane, when he came to this world. He said, you know what, you are mine. You are mine, and because I love you, I will come and die. Even if that's the price, I will come and die. Even if it means separation from my Father, I will come and do it. Why? Because of love. And so John chapter 3, verse 16 says, because God loved the world, he gave. Because he loved the world, he gave. And so, allow me, my friends, to say, love ought to be the abiding motive. In every act of life, Christians should seek to present Christ, to seek to make his service appear attractive. Let none make religion repulsive. You see, if you're doing it for obligation's sake, if you're doing it for compliance sake, it will show on your face. It will show that this is an exterior thing to you. It does not exist in a pagat. It will show. So let none make it repulsive by groans and sighs and the relation of trials, their self-denials and their sacrifice. Do not give the lie to your profession of faith by impatience and repining. Let the graces of the Spirit be manifested in kindness and meekness, forbearance, and cheerfulness. Let it be seen that the love of Christ is an abiding motive in your heart. That your religion is not a dress you put on and you put off to suit the circumstances, but a principle, calm and sturdy and unwavering. And it can only be seen if that's who you are on the inside. And so 1 John chapter 3, verse 16 calls us to that same kind of love. 1 John 3:16 says, because Christ gave his life for his brothers, you are also invited, bazalwane, and encouraged to give your lives for the salvation of souls. And that's all we're calling for this year, that when you go out, you're not doing it for Kempton Park Central. You're not doing it for personal ministries department. You're not doing it for the leaders and the elders of the church. You're doing it for Christ and your love for him. You see, there is a love for souls that we need to possess. Souls that Christ died for. Because if we value that, going out to seek them will be an easy thing for us. You see, the love of souls comes in 3 parts. Number 1, you love your own soul. And I think I run the risk of overstating this one. But those who know me know that I usually don't finish a presentation, especially regarding evangelism, without putting in this quotation. What kind of a crown will not be in heaven? A starless one. A starless one. And as we know, stars represent people we have worked for, souls that we have brought to Christ. And the pen of inspiration puts it clearly and blatantly that there will be no starless crown in heaven. In other words, there are no people who don't work for souls in heaven. There will be no people who don't work for souls in heaven. So if you love your own soul, you will work for souls to get to heaven. Does it make sense? So the love for souls for whom Christ died. And then it also means that you're loving the souls that you're meeting in the streets. You're loving the souls that you meet. Because you see, you can fool men as to what your motivation is, but you cannot fool God. And so if you're not doing it genuinely, sometimes, and I'm sorry to say, but the world can see through the act, especially if it is a once-off event. If you do a hit and run, they can know that next time you come, you were just a hit and run people. You're doing it this time of the church. They know they can actually cue you. Okay, it's this time of the year again. Wait for it, wait for it. There they are. So they can identify when it's just for show, just for ticking a register. And you know, it seems like it's a new thing, like Uba Muntombela was saying earlier on. There is nothing new that we're bringing to the church. Even the TMI campaign and what it stands for is not a new thing. Why? Because we are so used to the tent effort, of which we now claim does not work. But actually, that is the model of Adventism. Why? Because they are saying the tent comes in around September, October. Why? It's the end of the year. It's a reaping time. They're not saying that's the time for evangelism. They are saying you've worked the whole year. Then comes October, you are reaping what you've worked for. You're now in the last phase, which is the second last, which is the harvesting phase. Why? Because you've been working in the rest of the phases the whole year round. And so they can see when it's fake. People can see and tell that, you know what, you're just here because you want to tick a register that October is reaping month, is 10th month, we must do it. So the love of souls, genuine love for souls, allows us to have a star on our crown to enter heaven. And then the other one, which is the final one, which is what we're really talking about today, is love for Christ. Love for Christ. Because you see, if you have a relationship with Christ, your desire is to do what pleases him. Is to do what pleases him. And his love is for souls. Therefore, your love will be for souls. So my friends, my invitation to you this morning, or this afternoon rather, is let's have a real relationship with Christ. Let's have a loving relationship with Christ. Let's have a true love affair with our Maker. Why? Because then we can be in tune to understand what grieves him, to understand what pleases him, to understand the methods that he uses. They will not be foreign when we need to implement them. They will be second nature to us. It is indeed the story of redemption. It is indeed what it is all about. It is indeed the end of it all. You see, in Matthew 25, Christ speaks about the separation at the end of days. He says there will be goats on the left and sheep on the right. And then to the sheep, he says, they have done work. He doesn't say, welcome, you churchgoers, into your kingdom, and your Father's kingdom. That's what he says, isn't it? Welcome, you who were faithful Adventists, good and regular standing. Welcome, you who made sure that every Sabbath you are in church. Welcome, enter into your Father's fold. Akusinjalo. He says it's for what? For servants. A servant is someone who works. He's identified by work. There is no servant who's identified by being on the bench. You're not a substitute if you're a servant. There are no reserve servants. There are only servants. Only those who are actually attending. And so my plea to you, friends, is if heaven is our goal, if that is really what we are here for, to make it to the Father's kingdom, our time of privilege is now. Our time to get involved in the work is now. Our time to experience and extend our love for the Father in such a great manner is now. In fact, the Bible, Scripture says, angels long to look into these things that we are enjoying. They don't understand what grace is about. They don't understand how we can have that joy that nobody else in the universe can experience. And we alone on this planet have that privilege to say we express it because we understand how it was expressed to us. May the good Lord bless us, I pray. And may He bless our efforts. May He bless our goings in and our comings out. May He bless our commitments. This afternoon, as it been mentioned, that we're going to have the launch, where we are basically saying we are going to be putting commitments to it. To say, this year we are saying we are going to do this. And we're going to hold each other accountable when that which you have committed to has not been done. And so, as we do that, I pray that the motive behind that, the abiding motive as we go on, will be love for Christ. Will be love for Christ. Because we have been loved with such a great love, not anything else. Because we have been loved with such a great love, how can we but do anything else? How can we? How can we? Kungenxa yothando. Amen.
We thank the Lord for such a timely message this morning that's reminding us again, Guti, we do it for love, in response to the love that we've received from Christ. Amen. We will stand as we sing our closing song, hymn number 79.
Let's all rise. Amasimu, amasimu, to. Amasimu alindile ahlophe namabele ekude sewa bonile zekangene zinhle sonke Nkosi yo kuvu na iswangu wewe tonga seza patume abo uvunali ngagaluli klobo patumele kusenina tamba mabangemi no maselisho nilangama mavulisi nyanga Nkosi yokuvu na izwangu wewe tonga seza ba 나가 둘리 교보 왜 노투냐요 인고세부 네세사마벨레 베게술리니 세펠로wo 돌lum부서 굴루 고시여 구부 나이 swang구 wewe tonga seswa batume abo guvulani gagaduli shobo.
Shall we pray? Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you, Lord God. We thank you, dear Jesus, for this day where, Father, once again you have descended to remind us, Father, of the great commission, Lord God, that you've given us. Moreover, Father, you've even reminded us of the incentive that you've given us too, that, Lord God, you're not just sending us out there, dear Father, empty-handed, but you're sending us out there, Lord, packed with your love, dear Father, that you demonstrated first towards us. And so you're saying, Father, you can do the same, Lord God, to us, dear Father, by filling us with the same love, Lord God, that won us over, dear Father, the same love that you're giving us today to say, go out there and find others who need the same love that you did in order to be here. And so, Father, we thank you, Lord God, for this message. And we open up our hearts and our minds and we say, Lord, glory and honor be unto you because you are able to complete this work. And we are asking, Lord God, that we just allow us, Lord God, or be allowed to be tools, Lord God, in your hand. We offer ourselves, Lord God, as living sacrifices to be used and only by you, dear Father. Thank you, Lord God, and I pray, Father, that you may bless your church, bless your children today, dear Father. Even those, Lord God, who are still considering it, pondering it, dear Father, saying, can I even do this? Is it even my role? Father, I pray that you may bring to our minds, Lord God, a small role, Lord God, that we can play, Lord God, in order that one person, Lord God, may make it to heaven. Lord God, all of us want to have stars, Lord God, on our crown. We want to walk into the gates of heaven and say, Father, we brought, Lord God, not only, Lord God, ourselves, dear Father, we came here, Lord God, through your blood, we were able, Lord God, to come, Lord God, with others as well. Our friends, our families, we pray, Lord God, for them, dear Father, that you may help us. Help us, Lord God, to reach them. Help us, Lord God, to be motivated by your love. Thank you, dear Jesus. We glorify your name. In your name we pray, amen.